Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and thanks for tuning in. It's been quite a while since I have done kind of a long form YouTube video on one of my personal cars or something that wasn't just a regular walk around video. So I decided it was about time to do a video, and timing couldn't be better because I was fortunate enough this week to buy one of my all-time bucket list dream cars. This is a car I have been actively searching for probably 6 or 7 years, waiting to find the right one, waiting to find one I could afford. All the while, the prices have continued to climb and climb and climb. So that's made it tremendously more difficult. There was probably 10 that I should have bought over the years, as now they were good deals, even though at the time they were pricey. So for those of you who don't know, this is a 1994 Mercedes E500. This is the W124 chassis. This is Mercedes E-Class, which is kind of Mercedes' version of a BMW 5 Series. These cars are very special. Not to be confused with a 320 or a 400. Even though the bodies may be similar, these are a very, very different car. This particular one has a very, very neat story, which we'll get to in a minute, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video. But first, we'll talk about the car itself a little bit. So, at the time, Mercedes wanted to build something to kind of rival the BMW M5. So, BMW had the E34 M5. They'd already come out with the E28, but now they were deep into E34 production. And Mercedes didn't really have anything to compete with it. This one's obviously a wagon, but we're talking about sedans here. So Mercedes decided, okay, what can we do to our 124 chassis to build something that can create or that can compete with what BMW is doing? So they said, well, why don't we stuff the M119, which is their 5-liter V8, same motor that was in the SL500, the 500 SL, 500 SEL, their big 5-liter V8. They said, why don't we stuff this motor into an E-Class and make some changes and do that? And they thought, okay, well, that's a good idea. Problem is, we don't really have the capability of building this car. So what are we gonna do? Well, they rang up Porsche, who at the time was really, really struggling financially and was not in a very good place, and said, hey, help us put this car together. So Porsche said, okay, sounds good. So this is what they did. Mercedes would stamp the bodies, paint them, get them all prepped and ready at at the Mercedes plant. Then the painted shells were transported about, I think it was 10, 15 miles, something like that, to Porsche's Rissau-Bau plant in Zuffenhausen. Not in Stuttgart, but in Zuffenhausen, Germany. Porsche installed the drivetrain, suspension, brakes, wheels, wiring, interiors, everything. So they got the empty shells, then they put everything together, put the drivetrain in, all the wiring, brakes, suspension, engine, interior, everything. They completely put the entire car together. Then, after they were done, all the cars were sent back to Mercedes factory for kind of final inspection before delivery. It was a pretty complicated process. It was time consuming. I want to say they built about 18 cars per day, which kind of sounds like a lot, but when that factory was probably capable of producing hundreds of cars a day and under the normal processes, 18 cars a day is not a lot. So very cool, because this car is a Mercedes, but it was built by Porsche. These cars are kind of often referred to as a wolf in sheep's clothing because of that. So what are the differences between the regular 400 and the 500? Well, if you can't tell already, look how wide these front flares are on these fenders. So these cars sit about 1.5 inches lower than a 400 would have. They've got a wider front track, much, much larger front fenders. That's always the dead giveaway, is the big, huge rolled out fenders. And these aren't like fiberglass flares that are slapped on. This is factory still right here. Same thing in the back. They rolled these fenders out big time on the quarter panels. So the 500 had a much wider suspension setup. They also had a wider cross-section tire. I think they had 255s maybe, if I remember right, was the stock size. Wider front bumper, and that's kind of your dead giveaway. They sit lower, they're much wider, and they just kind of have that, it's almost like you're looking at it going, okay, what's different about this car? Like, this car looks mean. It's not overdone, but it looks, this looks meaner than a regular E-Class. In 1994, Mercedes switched to their new naming system. They went from, previously, these cars came out in 1992. These were 500Es. In 1994, they changed and went to their new naming system where they put the letters before the number, so then became an E500. Inside, a lot of things were the same, not huge differences. The biggest difference being that all the 500s were 4 passengers. So no bench seat across the back. These had this little center console and bucket seats in the rear. So the 500 was a 4-passenger car, not a 5-passenger car. And this is where the big difference lies. This is the heart of the beast. So this was one of the things that Mercedes had a very hard time doing, was stuffing this big, huge V8. Now, there are multiple videos on YouTube you can watch that are 100 times more informative than mine. I just kind of wanted to talk about this car, honestly, just because I'm so in love with it, and to talk about it a little bit. But if you really want to learn about this car, there are many, many videos that are going to go into way more depth and be much more accurate, most likely, than what I'm telling you here. But this is the big old motor that Porsche somehow stuffed into this little car. Now, at the time, this car was good for a 0-60 time of 5.2 seconds, somewhere between 5.2 and 5.5, 5.6. There's quite a few different claims, but it was fast. At the time, it was the fastest production sedan in the entire world. Meaning, 4-door cars, OE, not aftermarket, not modified, but factory built sedans. This was the fastest production sedan available. Now, another couple big differences, and this was also a change in 1994, so they call these the facelift cars. One of the big differences in 94 is the impact strips on the bumpers went from being black to being body colored. Most purists prefer the pre-facelift. I prefer the post-facelift. I would have bought either one. I didn't buy this car specifically because it was a post-facelift, but I do prefer it this way, so I'm good with it. But the brakes were another huge, huge upgrade. So the 92, 93 cars had the brakes off of the 500 SL Roadster on the front. In 1994, they got even bigger. They took the brakes off of the 600 SL, which was their big V12 coupe with some massive stopping power, and put the SL brakes. Now, if you're wondering about these goofy lug nuts, well, I happen to have these wheels sitting on the shelf for a different project I'm doing. And when my car got here yesterday, I thought, ooh, I'm gonna take those wheels and tires that I have and put them on the 500. So I did this last night, and I didn't have the right lug bolts, so these lug bolts stick out. That's why they look goofy. But sometimes you just can't wait. That's the way it goes, and that's all right. So, production numbers. That's what's really neat about this car right here too. And we'll talk about something else with this car, and then I'll talk about the history behind it and who I bought it from and why it's awesome. So in total, Mercedes built, I wrote this down here, 10,479 E500 500Es. They started production in 1992, went to 1995. Now, the majority of those were produced for the European market. Of all of those cars, only 1,528 were produced for the United States market. So, US spec built 500Es are very rare, 1,528 in total. 1995 was the last production year. If you find a 95 E500, you are talking about a very rare car. Those were the cars that they called the kind of the last build cars. They made 120 of them. Those were kind of like last requests. Like a good Mercedes customer was like, hey, I really want, I want a 500 before you guys quit building them. So Mercedes kind of used the rest of the parts and stuff they had and slabbed together 120 more in 1995. So if you ever find a 500 or 95 500, you are looking at a very, very rare car. Now, in 1994, there were 393. Let's go look at the inside of this car. I keep walking around the outside. Let's look at the inside while I'm talking. Mercedes made 393 US spec 500Es. This particular car was European delivery. Also, and we'll talk more about this, this car was a single owner. I bought this car from the original owner, which is a very cool part of the story, which we'll talk about in just a second. But this was a European delivery car. If you don't know what European delivery is, you could order your new Mercedes from the dealer, select European delivery, and Mercedes would build the car. When it was done, they'd say, hey, your car's gonna be done on this date. Fly out to our factory in Germany. We'll go through a fun little delivery process. We'll put a plate on your car, and you can go drive it around Europe. When you're done, bring it back, and we will ship it to the dealer you bought it from in the United States, where you can pick it up in about 6 weeks. This was a very cool process that actually kind of ended with COVID, unfortunately, another COVID casualty. Very cool. European delivery is a very cool thing. So this car was a European delivery. The customer, the person that I bought this car from, that bought it brand new, ordered it in 1994 from the Mercedes dealership in San Francisco. Went out with his wife, Marie, to Germany, picked up the car. They drove it all around Europe, shipped it back home, where he owned it for the next 32 years. Of those 393 US spec cars in 1994, 19 were European delivery. So that makes this car one of 19, which is a pretty cool fact, in my opinion. Now, let's talk about the history behind this car and why it's awesome. So, this particular car, again, I mentioned I've been looking for one of these for a long time. I had a guy in my neighborhood growing up. He was a pretty well-off guy, successful guy. He had two cars that I absolutely drooled over. He had a 94 E500, and he had a 97 40th anniversary 80 series Land Cruiser. Both of which I was just like, this guy, like, this is what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be, his name was Keith Sorensen. I was like, I want to be Keith Sorensen. So, this car has been on my list of cars I have wanted since I was 10 years old in 1994. I was born in 84. And I finally got it. Now, the reason that this car is special, this car is not perfect. It has 152,000 miles on it. It has been driven, it has been loved, it has been enjoyed, but it has been phenomenally well maintained. The maintenance and service history that came with this car is incredibly impressive. It was serviced at the dealership its entire life. Very, very well taken care of car. Now, these cars weren't meant to sit. These cars are meant to be driven. They had a lot of little gremlins that would pop up if they sat. Wiring harness was a big one, which this has already been replaced, fortunately. But these cars were meant to be driven and enjoyed. They were also meant to be maintained, and that's what happened with this car. This car was driven, it was loved, it was enjoyed, and it was well maintained. It's cool to find a car like this that has, you know, this car, it's not perfect, right? It's got some little scuffs here and there. You know, this one will come out. It's got a little scratch right there. Over on this side, it's got a few more little up taps. Got a little scratch right here on the front. This one actually was pretty fresh. This one just happened a couple of years ago. Got this little one right here on the door. So this car is not perfect. It has a few things. Some of these things I'm gonna fix. Got a few little door dings. Got this little ding right here below the tail light. That's easy stuff that I can fix simply. But I'm not gonna do a bunch of repaint work on this car. I'm not gonna go crazy. This is a car that can be driven, and when I was looking for one of these, I wanted one that I could drive, that I could enjoy. I already have enough cars that I try to drive all of my cars. The reason that I have some of the cars that I do, there are a lot of ways they're almost investments that I can enjoy. It's easy for me to do, being in the car business. It makes a lot more sense. It's easier to do this, but I drive all of my cars. My cars don't sit. They all get driven. I've had cars in the past that I was afraid to drive to devalue them, and I sold them and got rid of them because that's not what I wanted to do. So I bought this car because I could drive it and enjoy it. But for a car that has traveled 152,000 miles, you can see it is in very, very good condition. Everything on the interior is original. A lot of the wood trim and things like that, these were common failure points on these cars. All of that stuff is in really good shape. The upholstery, the leather, everything is held up incredibly well. the car is very, very clean and it's in very good condition. So it was a great, great car to start with. And I got lucky. I bought this car on Bring a Trailer. As I was going through the auction, I could kind of tell that it was probably someone who had passed away. The seller, the sweet lady, her name is Marie. She's a French woman who is just an absolute gem. I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to meet her throughout this process. And Marie kept saying, it was my husband's car. It was my husband's car. So after I won the auction, had a chance to talk to Marie and did confirm it was her husband. He passed away a couple of years ago. He was 92 years old. And this was his car. This was his daily driver, his business car. They own a very nice little coffee company in Oakland. And this was his company car. This was his daily driver. This is what he would take to go on client trips and meets and things like that. And she took a lot of pride in that it was her husband's car. And to her, it was important that it went to someone who was going to enjoy it, cherish it, appreciate it. And I can tell you right now, she couldn't have found a better owner than me, because I will love and cherish and appreciate this car very much. But very cool story. You know, they did European delivery. It was a single owner, all the maintenance history, knowing where it was, knowing where it came from. It was in California its entire life. So obviously underneath, it's very rust-free, no corrosion, no rust. Very, very nice, clean car. And to top it all off, I got this when the car got delivered yesterday, which was just kind of the icing on the cake for me. So Marie wrote me this nice little note. There's another note inside here, which I will not read. But stating, I hope you enjoy this car as much as my husband did. Marie Francois. Very cool. Marie, thank you if you ever watch this video. Thank you very much. I appreciate this car. She sent me some coffee and some swag from their little store, Mr. Espresso in Oakland, California. So if you haven't been there already, go check it out. They make tremendous, amazing coffee. So that is my new car. That is my E500. Thank you for watching this video. This was just a lot of me rambling and talking about useless stuff. But anyway, if you enjoy watching and listening to me ramble and talk about useless stuff, then I hope you enjoyed this video. These are amazing cars. If you don't know about these cars already, read up about them. 500Es, E500s, one of the coolest cars to ever come out of Germany. One of the last kind of full-blown integrated AMG cars. These were not AMG cars. This was the kind of the pre-AMG being all over everything car. And now I have my two favorite big sedans. I've got my E500, and then I have a 1985 500 SEL AMG, which is a pre-merger car, which is currently in full rebuild mode. So we'll get a video done on that one at some point too. And maybe we'll talk about both of them side by side. But very cool car, very cool history, and one I'm very excited to own. So thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.